What's that? Also, I mean, it looks sunny, but it's actually pretty cold right now. It's not even winter yet. We didn't even have fall yet, but I guess that's the weather that we get. I guess it's better than dealing with the pouring rain. I was reading one of you guys' comments yesterday suggesting how maybe I should try to build my own drone instead. If I'm having problems finding one that has the right specs in terms of the size, I'll probably be able to find something cheaper and better by building it custom. For myself, I don't think I have the necessary skills to do that. Like, it's just the way I think personally when it comes to the drones, because I don't really understand all the necessary mechanics. Like with computers, actually, in terms of building that, I actually prefer to build my own computers. So I'd rather buy all the individual parts, put them all together so I know exactly what I'm getting. There'll probably be a time where I would build my own drone, but again, I just don't think personally that I would have the necessary skills to do that unless I'm just way overthinking in terms of, I guess, the difficulty and challenge in terms of putting a drone together. But that did make me read this interesting one. It says, this is what you can capture with the world's smallest GoPro drone. And with that, he basically attached all these drone parts to it. And the amazing thing, it says here, after he stripped everything down, the drone weighs 94.7 grams when he stripped everything down. And he flew it, there's the footage here, and everything looks pretty good. Although an important note to that clip there, it's not stabilized like what you see like naturally. It actually did that through post-editing, but still, like reading something like that with a camera weighing that little, like in my opinion, would be able to live with something like that as a temporary backup drone. Actually makes me wonder if someone could do it with this camera, the one I use, because this one actually has an optical stabilization. I wonder if that would even work if you stripped everything down like this. But the weight, wow, like again, that's really kind of appealing for a person to fly, especially with no regulations when it's under that weight. Actually, on that thought too, for all the people who build drones, I'll put a link to the article. Do you guys think that's actually very difficult to build? Basically what this guy did? I mean, let me know. To me, it's kind of fascinating. I just don't think personally I have the skills to do that. That's why I'm more of a consumer, pick off the shelf and start flying it, because I just want the thing to fly and start capturing video. And it has technically been over 1 month since I submitted my Mavic Pro to the DJI support, where they've been non-responsive in terms of actually giving me the real answers that I want. I'll talk a bit about that a little later. And one of the most interesting stories I read today about drones was that drone crashing into people study, the one that those people in Virginia Tech did. So apparently they released something, and a lot of people are saying here, like this one, landmark study suggests risks vary widely in drone human impacts. All just should be good news for people who say drones are safe for the most part, as opposed to people thinking it's like a brick, for example, crashing into you, at least for consumer drones. So it says here for the study, the team used 3 commercially available aircraft with masses ranging from 1.2 kilograms to 11 kilograms. The aircraft impacted a test dummy whose head and neck contained sensors to measure acceleration and force. And from what I gather, what they did was 2 things. One, they rammed the drone right into the dummy's head at, I guess, full force to see what the impact is. And 2, they just dropped it, like a brick right on the head. So basically 2 ways to determine what is the damage as a result of different methods and weight classes. For some of the results, it says, in general, the injury risk increased with aircraft mass, which obviously makes sense. The heavier it is, the more likely it is to do damage. For example, in drop tests with the smallest drones, the risk of severe neck injury was less than 10%. For the largest aircraft, the medium risk rose to 70%. That's actually an important point, I think. I mean, less than a 10% chance of a neck injury for a drone, whereas a lot of people assume that's it. You get hit once or whatever, you're dead. But it's just not the case, even with this. And it suggests that here, the results suggest that a subset of small drones may already be safe to operate over people. Other aircraft, however, present significant injury risk, even with those well within mass and speed limits outlined in the FAA guidelines. I've often heard people say too, when a drone crashes into something, it's not like it's a brick, it basically falls apart. A lot of them are just plastic. So it says here, the data showed that injury risk was also reduced when the aircraft deformed upon impact or when pieces broke off. These deformations and fractures absorb some of the energy and the crash and offer another route for risk mitigation. Again, overall, it's better to have more information like this, even though, like, in my opinion, for a person like me, I thought stuff like that would be common sense for the most part, but I guess, people still need the information. I wonder if that'll make people less paranoid too, thinking that a drone crashing into something is like a brick. Although it is kind of interesting to kind of read how, like what this says, like flying towards a person seems to produce less damage than actually dropping it straight on their head, which again, I guess it makes sense just because of the concentration of the force. I guess it's kind of like breaking wood or bricks like in martial arts, right? Basically focusing all your energy on one spot obviously does way more damage than just something scattered everywhere. The other test I'd be kind of interested in seeing, even though in my opinion I would assume there's no way it would be possible, since the regulation starts with 250 grams and above. How good or well would a drone of that size survive if it was, say, I don't know, let's make something up, 1,000 meters or feet or whatever, okay, in the air right next to that airplane? How well would that actually survive with all the turbulence of the air, especially from like the actual aircraft blowing the wind on it, going that fast? Would that drone actually survive enough to get to the actual airplane? Like, I'm actually curious in seeing that, just to see how realistic it is in practicality. And for the DJI support and that Mavic Pro gimbal, can you guys believe it's been over 1 month since I've been droneless? Essentially the way it is right now, they still have not even replied or basically followed through with their promises from the phone call when I phoned them. They said back at about September 1st, if I'm not mistaken, they said they will escalate it to the highest level, and I've been waiting ever since. And since they sent me an automated email saying again, hey, pay that invoice, I replied specifically to that person who gave me that generic answer to say, please give me a direct contact, which again, they haven't yet. So at this point, with that bad support and how they're basically avoiding the answers, which a lot of you, I guess, are even assuming, because obviously it shows a deficiency in something. Like, there's something wrong in their end with that product, in my opinion, for a company to be avoiding the answers like this. So it makes me wonder what I should do with all that stuff, even some of the stuff I haven't shown yet in terms of the process, in terms of communicating with the DJI. It makes me wonder how I should compile all this. Funny enough, if I actually had the resources, I'd probably talk to people like, first, a consumer protection lawyer, just to see what they think about stuff like that, like the way they're acting and whether or not that is legal with how they're doing it. And second, I would probably ask something like a communications major, like someone who works in PR, to kind of get down to the narrow. Why are they communicating like this? What do they think they're accomplishing? I think these guys were the bane of the production crew. Every time when they're shooting a film, for example, and the sound, people are talking, all of a sudden you hear this seagull and everything like that, like yelling, like, oh my goodness, next take. I don't know what I'm thinking today in terms of flying. I know if I had the drone today, I'd be capturing, again, probably more of the pond or the trees and all that. Let's see what we come up with. Uh-oh, plot twist. I just missed a call and apparently I listened to voicemail. It's from DJI, but the number said New Jersey. I guess I'll save that for tomorrow. Okay, see you guys later.